Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to a new segment or a new series that we're trying out here called Critical Learning, where I kind of talk you guys through the process of taking certain photos. How to take certain photos of your kits to make it look the absolute best way it can look. So we are, as if everybody doesn't know me, my name is Chris Pabs, Pabby, Chris underscore Pabs on Instagram, all that stuff. And I am joined tonight by a couple of my co-hosts from Critical Builds, starting with this gentleman right here.
Hey guys, do you know how to use a camera? Because I
Uh,
don't. We're gonna find
none,
out today on
none of us
critical
do.
learning.
None of us do. Uh, and yeah, thank you for joining me, Julio. I know you've been burning the midnight oil nonstop for the last couple of days. I appreciate you trying to bring the energy. I know you're tired, boy, but
Yeah,
you know, we'll talk about we'll make this as chill as possible so it's not so tiring. And
I know how to use this.
we'll figure it out. Figure it
Yeah,
out.
I don't know.
And then next up we got thank you, Julio. And then next up
No
we
problem.
got this gentleman right. Huh? There you go.
Hello. I had to run all the way to the car for this fucking thing.
It's charging, man. You kind of need that for power and stuff.
to bring the
Power.
shots.
Yeah, and it looks like Kyle, Clueless Gumball Builder. If you guys don't know him, he's a little bit busy right now. He's still kind of setting up because he wasn't particularly ready for this.
I wasn't ready.
But yeah, so it's just the three of us tonight. Both Z and Brian are kind of in the midst of a couple of things that's going on in real life. I do see that Brian is at least in the comments, so he'll be asking questions and try to just to spice things up. And then essentially, what this will be is I'll start. I'll talk about my process and all that stuff, and then these guys will be following along and then obviously if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. I will, I am more than happy to answer. And
How do I change my f-stop?
What is the camera? What does it do?
God.
Where are you, f-stop?
We've already started. Oh Lord. So yeah, so thank you guys for joining us tonight. I know this has been we've been planning this for a couple of weeks, and as you can see, it is a big giant mess still. We're still trying to I've been trying to figure out how to show this in the best way possible. Both Julio and Kyle have been busy doing other things. Let's I think we should deep dive into it and kind of talk about I guess we could talk about my experience first, right? Because not a lot of people know this about me, but I was a product photographer from 2007 all the way up to like 2012,
What?
13. Yeah, I not only did I do product photography, I also did fashion photography and model photography.
Ooh, look at my
Um,
shoes.
Look at my shoes. To give you guys a quick example of of some of the things that I did. Kind of let me see. I'm kind of trying to think of the brands I kind of had to take photos of as a young man living out in London. I was
I'm
doing
Yorkshire Falls.
I was doing things for places like Superdry, Franklin and Marshall, Converse, True Religion. Those kinds of products. And then as things went on, I kind of got more into product photography. So that's smaller items like shoes and jewelry and all of that stuff. And then eventually that kind of went on, and I kind of moved on from that career and kind of did my own thing. But that the experience that I gained from learning all of that stuff with product photography and fashion photography really helped with obviously gunpowder photography, because at the end of the day, your subject is still your product, and whatever I learned there applied to me, taking photos in the best way I can possibly think of doing. So do we have any questions so far?
That's a camera.
What's a camera? A camera is a device that captures an image using a shutter, sometimes a mirror, sometimes mirrorless, sometimes digitally, and sometimes physically. Yeah, by film.
It steals the soul, right? It takes your soul.
What's up?
The cameras steal people's soul, right?
To my knowledge, it can and cannot. I don't know. It just depends on which camera you use. So I'll show you guys actually. I never really got to show this, but like this is like one of the examples of some of the things I was doing as a.
Who that?
So this is a model friend of mine. So he was doing super dry modeling at the time. I know it's not centered. Forgive that, but that's just how the for some reason the image is taken. Let me see if I can move it a little bit here. Let me see if I make it bigger.
Biggie.
Yeah, it still doesn't want to, unfortunately, center for some reason. But whatever, whatever. So it's like this was kind of the start of what I was doing. So I was doing a lot of fashion photography, and that really helped me kind of figure out some of the rules that we'll talk about, like the rule of thirds and composition, and obviously focus and color balance and all of that stuff. So it's this kind of thing is very it's very rudimentary. It's very simple, but it does take a long time to kind of master. And yeah, we'll get through some of that tonight, and then I think we'll have to continue this as a series. And then we also have a question from Monster Foxtrot. What if all you have is a phone? So that is a good question, Monster Foxtrot. I don't know your name, so we'll go with that. I will also cover not only with the DSLR or mirrorless camera, but I'll cover how to take photos with a cell phone. A lot of people these days have very modern cell phones. Whether you have something from 7 years ago or something from a couple months back, everybody has the ability to take really good photos with these cell phones. You just have to know how to mess with the settings and be able to work the composition the absolute best way you can. Okay.
Hey, Kyle, what you doing?
I don't have blinds, so I'm trying to undo
Oh.
these screws so I can mount. You guys actually see me?
Yeah,
I thought I was out of the frame.
it's
Oh,
kind of
snap.
leg time.
Yo, did you guys know Monster Foxtrot is Clem?
What up, Clem?
No, I didn't know that at all.
Bitch. Damn.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Clem,
Clem-
thank you for
Clem
joining
knows.
us tonight, man. I know you're a busy dude. But yeah, So again, if you guys have any questions, whether photography related or photography equipment related, or even build related, there'll be times where I won't be looking at the screen because I'll be looking at the camera and stuff like that. But I'm sure one of these guys will point it out and we'll answer away. So, do you guys have any questions so far? Is there anything you guys need to?
Should I turn off my top LEDs, the ambiance LEDs?
No, those won't affect your overall composition, especially if you are if you're taking something with focus. So you'll be okay. Kyle is the one that has an issue because his environment is a lot brighter, right? And it's going to be a lot harder to control for him. But you're already kind of working in a darkish background. You'll be fine. I have purple lights on, and that should be perfectly fine too. So
Arms not long enough, guys. Fuck.
Ooh, Sazabi.
damn,
Is it MG or RG? You probably don't
comes
fuck
back
with
to
RGs.
Compa. I don't know whether to be afraid or to be
Ecstatic?
ecstatic. I don't know, man. Okay, so we'll talk about theory real quick before we get into any of the the kind of the what's the word for it? Practical stuff. There we go. God, it's today.
Just got darker in here, so we're good.
Good. Okay, great.
I brought out my gray sheet.
You got your gray sheet.
Like you play Nightman with that.
Mike, let me tell you, Mike. Let me tell you something. The purple lights always stay on. They always stay
It's
on.
like it sucks.
I do have a question, Peps,
Yeah, what's
about DSLR. I have this macro lens.
Mm-hmm.
Should I use that?
If you want really close-up detail shots, absolutely. So if you want to show off how smooth your paint application is and stuff like that, and if you're not afraid to really get in and up close with your camera to take particular shots, then yes, you can. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Usually, so what I try to do is while new lens, especially for photographers, while new lenses are always very appealing to get because hey, new item and some lenses do take better shots. What I try to do is I try to make it as basic as possible. And use like the default lens that you have. A 35 millimeter is perfectly fine. 18 to 42 is also good. Just so that you don't have to be either extremely far away or super close to your subject, because uh, if you're at a decent distance, you kind of like an in between those two. That just makes it a little bit easier for you to kind of control your environment, because some people might not have the space. Like myself, I don't have the space to go all the way out to the other side of the room. That's just going to make things more difficult for me. So, yeah. Let me see here. Okay. So if everybody, I thought we lost Kyle real quick. Okay, so we're
No.
going to be talking about theory real quick. Okay, so I'm going to use a. Let me see here. Where's my OBS? Okay, here we go. So here's a photo that I took. You guys have. I'm hoping you guys have seen this at some point. Oh, right. Thank you. So here's a photo I took of the faux sixth form barbatos that I know you guys have seen at some point in God knows social medias. Yes, thank you. Let me see if I can. Is there any way for me to make you slightly smaller, because you're a little bit too big for me here? There we go. Is that can anybody see? Can everybody see that? Is
Yeah.
that
See it on screen.
Yep, that's good.
okay? So the first thing I'm going to talk about is probably composition. Composition is very important. Whether you take like a photo of your Gundam or whatever it is you're taking photos of, composition I think is just as important as lighting and camera, because if you have your subject and it's not positioned in a way that is easy for me to look at, it's going it won't be. I feel like you're not
Seen.
accomplishing the goal you're trying to set out, which is me trying to look at your gunpla. Okay, so there is a theory called the rule of thirds, where you take. Let's see if I can do this here. If I can take lines and this is going to be kind of not precise, because obviously I'm not.
Eyeballing.
I'm kind of eyeballing it, right? So if you think about it, I'm already doing it wrong. Lines of three. What's that, Kyle?
Damn it, Pat.
I know, I'm sorry. It's been a really long day, guys. I'm sorry. So lines of three across your kit, right? So let's do that real quick. There we go. And I'm trying to make this as even as possible, just because I'm just doing this by eye. Usually I would have a grid up and stuff like that, but that's you have to worry about it. So the rule of thirds kind of dictates that where these lines intersect is kind of where your eye naturally kind of gravitates towards, right? So that's like points of interest, and you want to try your best to put the things that you want the person that is looking at your photos to focus on to be in where those lines intersect. So, for example, I have the head exactly center to this intersection between the middle line and this first third line, right? Like same with the kind of like the crotch area. I mean, and just don't think of it that way. You're thinking of it in proportion. So, and then finally, the feet are kind of they're not centered exactly at that center point, but they're very close to it, right? So when you put all this together, you're looking at it, you're like, okay, so I'm looking at this thing, and let's move a little bit further. You're looking at this thing, and you're looking at it from the very top to the very bottom. What are the things you're noticing? You're noticing the head. You're noticing the torso / crotch area, and then you're noticing the feet, and all of those are in focus. They're the subjects of exactly what you're looking at, and that is what you're trying to achieve. Now, it doesn't matter if like the what's the right word for it? If the photo isn't, or your subject isn't centered, as long as it meets those intersections, right? So
Pat, did you mistakenly add one extra line vertically and horizontally? I think you're running quarters right now instead of
Oh
thirds.
shit, you're right. Okay, sorry.
Satum just pointed that out, and I just confirmed. I was like, oh yeah, there are 4 squares. Shit.
Satanism is right. I'm looking at quarters. It's supposed to be thirds. My bad. So let's start it. Let's go for this again. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. There you go. I was doing it right the first time.
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah, I was. Fuck. All right, so let's try this
It's a
again.
long day, guys. Just work with us here.
It's been a really, really long day. There we go.
It still works with quarters.
It still technically works with quarters, yes, but it's supposed to be. It's called the rule of thirds. So that's my bad. Okay, so yeah, so thirds.
You can get the rule of nickels.
Yeah, so even with the thirds, like even if we're intersecting, right? There we go. Let's kind of line this up here. Oh, that's a little too high. There you go. It still works because all of the points still kind of match, right? So obviously this time there's no mid line, but you're hitting the shoulders, you're hitting still the torso, and you're still hitting the feet. So it's still hitting points of interest of the kit that you're looking for. And again, it doesn't matter whether it's it's centered or on the left or right. So let me see if I can find a photo real quick. I really should have prepared these, but I'm very tired. It's been a very long day.
We trying to help you.
You really are trying to help me. Okay, so here's another one, right, where the photo itself is not it's not centered. It's in a position of the subject is on the right, so it's taking up the final third of the composition, but the points of interest are still hitting the subject. So you've got the head, you've got the torso, and then in this case, you've kind of got the hip/knees, right? And when you're looking at the image, you're not looking at anything else because, well, for one, you have nothing to distract you from the build itself, and secondly, all of those points where your eyes naturally go towards are hitting the subject.
Real quick, Julius, it's where the lines intersect, so it's vertical and horizontal.
Question: is the rule of thirds vertical only? No. It's where the lines intersect, so it's vertical and horizontal. So you're looking. So I'm just making it an example because when you're looking at a bipedal, because obviously this is Gunpla. When you're looking at a bipedal thing, you're looking at it from the top, from the head to toe, right? You're looking
The
at
figure.
it. Exactly. You're never looking at it from horizontal because your eye doesn't work that way. You're always looking at it from the head to the torso to the feet. You see, that's why you always get that look of you're looking somebody up and down. Because you're not looking at them from shoulder to shoulder. That's not a thing. It doesn't happen. So, yeah. Does anybody have any questions so far? You guys?
No, I mean, it makes sense. Where you got to kind of aim your in this particular method. Is that a good term to use? Method? Rule of thirds is a method?
Yeah, rule of thirds is both a method and I guess like a theory. Like
Okay.
it's what they told you. It's not the rule of quarters. That's my bad. Like I said, it's been a long day. And then the next thing we'll talk about real quick is the what's known as the golden ratio, right? Now, for people asking what the fuck is the golden ratio, so the golden ratio is also known as the golden section.
That's called 3.14.
That's
Hi.
that's.
I got it, Paps. Keep going.
No, I don't wanna. So the golden ratio, it's a way for you to visually, what's the right word for it? Appeal using your imagery, right? So I'll see if I can find an image of a golden ratio image real quick, right?
Google it.
Wait, Pabs. We got a question from Dave B. Does white space matter?
Yeah, all negative space.
That's a critical.
So white space or negative space, it put that into context. What do you mean? Does it matter? Because it depends on your composition. It fully depends on how you're wanting to convey it, right? So, for example, I'll make this image of an example. I have all this dead space here in the 2/3, right? And the first and the second third, and then my subject is right here in the middle. In this one, I have dead space at the bottom, at the top, and all around it. But it doesn't deter from the fact that my subject is still the focus. So, in a sense, yes, because you still want a context of space, and it's it's not just like well, take that still fucking works, but it's not like it's not like it's not in context. You can use dead space as a form of scale for your kit or your subject. All right. Let's see here. Robert Kurtz says, image cropping tools for modern smartphone photo editing apps, especially not 1:1 square and 2:3 landscape, 3:2 portrait layout defaults can use the same rule of thirds. Exactly. Yep. So
Yeah.
a lot of even phone cameras, DSLRs, mirrorless cameras have something called a grid to them that you can absolutely use.
Mhm.
If you don't really want to do it by eye, or if all you have to do is go into your settings, turn on that grid, and that will help you kind of uh, compose your image better. Okay, so let me see if I can do this real quick. Go snipping and turn that on, and then we'll turn this on. Okay, so here is a kind of an example of I can't see
Golden ratio.
the golden ratio. Yes, let me see if I can move this a little bit more, so it's a little bit
You
more.
can remove Robert's comment.
Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. So here is an example of a golden ratio. I know you guys can't really see the full image. If I turn off my face camera here, that might actually work a little bit better. Okay, there we go. So essentially, the golden ratio is, if you kind of imagine, where did Kyle go? I hate this. And so the golden ratio essentially is not only, so if you look at the red lines here, okay, so that is the rule of thirds. The golden ratio is this blue line right here, and that essentially is another kind of theory where what's the right way to put this? It's where you're
it
go ahead.
leads the eye where the eye naturally falls.
Right. It leads the eye. Yeah. Thank you, Julio. So it leads the eye. So if you're looking at this image right here, right, you're not when you're not really paying attention to much of what's in between. You're looking at the subjects, right? So this image right here is what your eye is leading you towards. It's leading you towards the subject right here, and then a visual interest that your eyes is attracted to, like this person taking the photograph right here. So a lot of I believe what is the ratio is like 1.6 something, right, to 1,
Yeah.
something like that. Like it's just a way for you to kind of compose your photos so that you like what the subject you're wanting to be in focus is actually in focus, and not anything else, not the paints on your workbench if you're taking pictures on your workbench, not your background, none of that stuff. It's always going to be the subject that you're looking to take photos of. So yeah.
And this works flipped, like horizontally, vertically, like in
Yes.
that ratio. It works.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah. And then let's see here. Operation Starter says using Photoshop for examples. I'm not really sure what you mean by that.
I think he means you're using Photoshop to.
Yes. So I'm using Photoshop right here right now to take kind of this example just to show you like the rulers, but I'm not actually using it to edit anything. Right. I mean, I can just go to view. Where is it? Guides, and then turn off the guides. Right. Clear guides. And the photo itself hasn't seen any kind of editing whatsoever. So yeah. All right. So let's get into where'd everybody go? Everybody's gone.
Yeah, I didn't. I gave you the full space.
That's great. Okay. No problem. All right. So next thing is so equipment, right? Let's talk about equipment real quick because everybody's talking about it. Like, do you need to buy the $2,000, $3,000 camera? Do you need to buy a photo box? Do you need to buy this? Do you need to buy that? And my answer to that is no, absolutely not. Okay, so if we look at Julio's setup right here, okay, so he might have a DSLR, but before the DSLR, what did you take photos with? The camera,
Wow.
or
Yeah.
your phone camera, right? And if you look at his background right now, he's using a large poster paper, black poster paper, and a bunch of lamps. Kind of what's the right word for it, Julio?
Illuminating?
No, not illuminating, man. You put paper over them.
Oh, diffused.
Diffuse. Thank you. diffused to make sure that the lights aren't too harsh, and it that's that's it. If or whenever Kyle gets back here, you'll see his setup. But okay, so what we'll do right now is we'll use my setup real quick. So let's go back to me. We'll go here,
Big screen
and yes, we'll do big screen. All right, so that's not it.
transition.
There are transitions, but I have to kind of wait for my camera to kind of load itself up. There we go.
It's transferring a lot of data, dude.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm streaming at the same time, so it's going to be a little bit kind of thing. So Joel will absolutely hate me for this, all right? But I use the photo box for what reason? Because it makes it easier for me. I've been through the whole gamut of what I've had to use. I've had to use studios. I've been outdoors. I've used Julio setup. I've done all of that. For me personally, the photo box just makes things a lot more convenient for me, and a lot more. It's just easier for me to set up and take down as I need to because it's all just in one spot.
Real quick, your photo box is ginormous.
It is quite large, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this particular photo box, if I let me just minimize this real quick, and I'll show you guys which one this one is.
You would totally be able to make this, right? Like,
absolutely. So all the photo box is doing is it's giving you a background and it's giving you the light diffusion that Julio is already doing just by adding paper to his LED lights.
Yeah.
That's all it is. So the photo box doesn't hinder you in any way, or it doesn't stunt your growth. It just makes things set up easier for you, right?
Yeah.
So, wherever you place your lights, it's already going to be diffused just because of the white walls. You already have your background, whatever color you choose, because it's already part of that box. It's just if you guys watched Joel's interview a couple of days ago, he was talking about what's the right word for it? Yeah, the photo box was made essentially to ensure, not to ensure, for product photographers who are on the move, and this is exactly what this was for. It was never meant to be it was never meant to be a station that you would just keep in one spot and that was it. And we got Kyle back here. Here we go. He's back.
Computer went crazy. Had to diagnose some stuff. We're good. We're back.
Okay, good. Okay. We'll talk about your setup in a second here, Kyle. We'll just go back to me.
Setup.
This is essentially all it is. Okay, I've got two lights and I've got the photo box. The lights are diffused by the box itself, and then I have most of the time a black background. Most of the time. Now, if anybody's asking where to get this light box, let's go to this one right here. And it is the LimoStudio 24x24 inch tabletop photo photography studio LED lighting. It comes with several types of backgrounds. It comes with the light that you need, and it comes with like a small tripod, but nobody ever uses that. And that's essentially it. Now, for those that don't want to spend money on what's the word for it on a photo box, I will also show you guys how to do things without one, kind of how Kyle and Julio are doing it. And then speaking of Kyle, let's go ahead and show everybody his setup. So Kyle's is a little different from Julio's, whereas his is. Are you a one light setup there, Kyle? You're muted, by the way. It looks like he's one light setup. So it's a one light setup. Not much else. He has a mirrorless camera, and I don't know what he's doing right now, but
voguing.
He's voguing.
Oh, okay. So I was muted the whole time.
I said you were muted, my guy.
I have three lights, so I have two adjustables, one for backlight, but only one of them's on right now, and the other two are just on standby if you have to adjust.
Okay,
which I'm sure we will, because I could barely see my kit right now.
Okay.
They're getting the light back. That's why it seems brighter than it really is.
Yeah, it's that's pretty bright. Okay, so that's essentially it. It's these. So all of these setups, right, with or without Kyle's mirrorless camera and Julio's DSLR, my mirrorless camera, you could use this exact setup for any for any camera that you have, whether it's a phone or a DSLR or a mirrorless or basically anything. All right. The most important thing that you need to kind of grasp here is that um, it's all about your lighting and it's all about your focus and your composition. A lot of these newfangled things will do you shit if you don't know the basics of your lighting, your composition, and your focus. Um, all right, let's see here. So I think
Especially
we've
with
got a couple
modern
of
day
questions here.
cameras. I mean, I've got 4 lenses on this bad boy. I mean, mind you, this is latest and greatest, but my last phone was the Samsung 10, which is like a 2 years old, and you get a 4-year-old Galaxy phone, and those notes are pretty
Yeah,
comparable cameras. I mean, you got 4 megabyte, 8 megabytes. So they've got the pixelation, they've got the manual adjustment for your focal, so you can change between your f-stops, you can do your shutter speed. So modern day camera or phones, smartphones are pretty much equivalent. This mirrorless is older by a decade to this phone, yet they probably about do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, the advancements of phone cameras within the last like 10 years is insane. The fact that so a lot of people just kind of you kind of go into their default camera modes on the camera and point and shoot, and that's well and good. But there you can deep dive into your phones and really get the settings that you need to be able to get comparable photos to DSLRs and mirrorless cameras quite easily. Just if you know what you're looking for, and we will cover that real soon.
They smashed really good digital cameras into phones.
Yeah. Let me see here. So Highcrick says, I made a photo box using a foam board and wax paper for diffusion. Velcro hinges about $6. Absolutely. Um, you don't even have to build a photo box. Like I said, Julio's and Kyle's setups are perfectly fine.
Just a sheet of
There is
paper and a
no
bunch of lights.
sheet of paper and a bunch of lights. The only thing that the photo box is just good for is absolute convenience, right? So it's just to diffuse those two lights on each side and have the background ready for you to go, and that's it. And then Dave B's question is, how many light sources are recommended for best results? For me, Dave, and I'll show you guys this in a quick second. 3 lights is all you need. You need yourself a key light, area light, and a floodlight. Well, no, I call it a floodlight, but it's not really a floodlight. So two area lights and a key light is really what you need for really good basic product photography. You don't really need to go any further than that. If you want to get fancy, you can get yourself like a remote flash, but that, again, that's not necessary. All right, and then Michael Dawson says, question: why is that banshee in front of a black background?
It's not a banshee, man.
It's not a banshee, man.
FanX. And believe me, the contrast is there. I just need to get my lighting down.
All right, so continuing on. So I don't know what cameras Kyle and Julio are working on, but real
I
quick,
think
I'll show you
Julio's
guys
Nikon, I'm Sony, and then you're with the G5,
Panasonic
right?
G7.
Yeah, Panasonic.
Yeah.
G7.
So here is the camera that I use, which is the LUMIX G7. This is what I think. I don't even know how many years old at this point. It's like 2015 or 14. There's newer cameras out there that have since succeeded this camera, but this is the one I use just because I like the simplicity of it. I like how lightweight it is. It's very easy to use. The settings are right there, and it's fairly inexpensive. At 557 or 597, you can get this even cheaper if you get it secondhand.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
especially now.
and yeah, I mean the G85 man is a beautiful camera if you're looking to get something more expensive than this. But this for me is perfectly fine for what I need it for. I don't need to go too fancy. And yeah, so this is for me. This is a really good mirrorless camera. Thank you, Joel, for recommending this however many years ago. And then finally, I 100% recommend this, and I'm sure these guys do as well. Get yourself a fairly inexpensive tripod.
Yeah, about 12
Um,
bucks.
yeah,
Easy peasy.
this one's 15 bucks. This one is 16.5 to 50 inches. nice and easy to use. You know, a lot of people kind of tend to, and I don't know. I'm looking at Julio and going, I don't see a fucking tripod on his, but
I have one, but it doesn't go to the floor.
but yeah. So for me, it's just easier for you to stay in focus and to keep things nice and still. If you have a tripod, you know, if your camera is on one, you'll see you know they go in a whole bunch of different range and prices. When I started taking photos. I started with a very cheap one, very similar to this $15 one, so you don't have to go super expensive for anything like that. So you know, don't go crazy, especially if you don't have one. Go with the basics and then kind of make your way up as you start to understand what you're doing and you start to kind of have a setup that you think is workable for you. And that's pretty much. I mean, that's really pretty much it. That's all you really need um, to get started. I mean, you can, like I said, you can go as fancy as possible, or you can go as simple as possible. It just really depends on what you need to do. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to. I'm gonna try my best to remember what these were. I think it was no, that's Studio. Um, I'm pretty sure it's this one, but it's taking. There we go. It's taking its time. Okay, so uh, what is? I've covered that. Covered equipment. I've covered theory. Range Quest 61 says tripod is something that's actually better to not cheap out on, as if you think about on how much camera kits cost. You don't want that to be a point of failure. Range Quest, I 100% agree with you. I'm talking more in the sense of if you're just starting out, right? A lot of people just start out with fairly cheap equipment in the first place. Like for example, like I said, Julio started with just a cell phone, and you know, at some point we all started out somewhere. It's just easier to kind of get a you know, kind of a cheaper tripod. And these tripods, even though they're quite cheap, they're actually quite sturdy and stable. So
Hell,
you
I
don't
take
have to
mine
worry too
out
much
onto a
about.
construction site and take progress pictures, so I still got mud on the bottom of mine. And
Yeah,
this is a lightweight frame. You can get a heavier duty one, and they typically have like a mounting point, so you can hang like a bag on it, really weight it down if you want. There's a couple of different options.
yeah. And this man getting all fancy, getting a Manfrotto tripod. Damn, dude. What's up, Dan? All right. So,
He's actually completely correct too. You can use a light bouncer, large
yeah.
sheet of white paper to
Mhm.
bounce stuff back off of.
Yeah. I could. I mean, I don't have that with me currently, but since a lot of my equipment is at the office,
Don't know
I
where
should
they
have
are.
really brought those home.
It might be in my
But
bag.
um, yes, absolutely. If you don't have enough, if you don't have enough
It's in
lights,
the
your
closet.
a reflector is perfectly fine, and the reflector is very cheap and inexpensive to kind of just set up and have near your lights and be able to bounce light off of to get to make sure you're removing harsh shadows and all that stuff.
Yeah, I just did
So
a post showing you what a white piece of paper can do.
yeah, absolutely.
They're very powerful.
And then yeah, and Saint Ism is right. Instead of buying, I know you. I saw your comment earlier. I saw your comment earlier, and you said, you know, instead of buying that kit, you could always you can go out and buy some equipment. And you're 100% correct. I mean, an entry level DSLR kit, like one of the, you know, I mean, not a lot of people are big fans of the EOS line these days, but you can get one for about roughly the same price of a PG.
Yeah,
Um,
mine is a used Sony A600 or 6000. I got it for 180 with a lens. So I mean, used you can get really good combinations too. Plus, if you're worried about, because the lens is always the most expensive, you can go manual lens with a lot of these newer cameras, and they are much cheaper. You just have to manually focus. It's
right.
really the only thing. You manually set your f-stops, but everything else can be done via the camera, and you can save a shit ton of money as an initial investment. Um,
So I switched over microphones to the because I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna turn off the computer.
You sound really muffled right now, Paps. What happened?
yeah,
One sec, one
you
sec.
There you go.
Can you guys hear me now? Do you guys
Yeah.
hear me better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I switched over to my headset mic, so when I get up, you guys can still hear me. Because I'm
Yeah.
gonna
okay.
obviously step out and kind of talk about what I kind of do here. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn on these lights because obviously, you know, You need lights to keep this on. All right. So, like I said to you guys before, the photo box is only there to make sure that the light stays diffused. It's not. I don't think it's a crutch or anything like that. It's just to keep things in one place. However, like I said, Julio's and Kyle's setups are perfectly fine and workable. You guys don't have to worry about that at all. Okay, so here is like my basic as fuck setup. There's nothing special about it. There's no it doesn't take up a whole bunch of space. The table itself was like $35 from IKEA. And then obviously the lights and stuff came with this setup, but if you don't have the photo box, you're perfectly fine to get like a bunch of cheap LED lamps. They're like $7 a piece, and
You get
you
the
put
ones from
them.
IKEA.
Yeah, and again, IKEA. Yeah. So, all right. So here is the setup. As you can see, I have the lights pointed away from the subject. Let me see if I can move this camera so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So you can see here the light is moved away from the subject. The subject's right here. It's moved away. It's pointing more towards the upper edge of this thing, the photo box, and then the white right here is also reflecting light towards. It's kind of bouncing light back and forth, right? Same with on this side of the this side of the photo box. It's nice and simple. I mean, if it floods it with a decent amount of light, and we're good to go, right? So the next thing that you kind of need to pay attention to is the settings on the camera itself. So let's see if I
Quick
can get a close.
question. Operation
Yeah.
Stardust asks, a hanger background can do the job, can't it? Or can it?
So
It,
yeah, go ahead, Julio.
it depends on the background, because it, like the hanger itself, it can detract from the subject in it, and you have to make sure your lighting is okay within it. So depending on that setup, you can take good photos. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree. The a hanger background. So ones that I've seen that are good examples can make it really good because it does look more like a vignette than like a kind of just
A
your
subject
kit.
photo.
Yeah, but like bad ones I've seen actually take away from the focus of your subject. So instead of you looking at the actual thing that you've built, you're now looking at the background, and it's distracting you from what you're supposed to be looking at. So it can be, what's the word for it? It can be
It could be a detraction from your subject.
thank you, Julio. I knew I had you on the show for a reason, bro.
Coming in with the assist.
Yo, I'm gonna unplug my headphones so that I can move around. Let me know if you hear yourself echo.
Okay, sure. All right. So let me see here. Let me switch over to now that you guys have seen the setup, let me switch over to the actual camera here. So here we go. So this isn't. So you're looking at this right now and going, "Oh man, like it's
Oh, no, I can't hear
overexposed on one."
anything.
Come on, Babs.
So Typheria says, "Was it Tabs? Did the boomy booms blow up all your wordy word
I
books?"
can't hear anything.
I don't know, man.
Ain't this
Let's
a
wait
bitch?
for.
Yo, Pabs, I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna come back in.
Okay,
Be
go
right
ahead.
back.
Sure. All right. So, so you're looking at this right now, and you're thinking, oh man, like this thing is overblown, it's overexposed on one side, and you can see all the wrinkles and stuff on the background. First of all, those aren't wrinkles. That's just the folds because it's kind of pushing the thing back. And secondly, you guys should always steam if you have a fabric background. Always steam that shit and clean it up because you don't want dust and hair all over it. So, let me see here. We got Julio back. There we go.
Let me know if you hear yourself
Julio
echo.
knocking out.
Okay.
Okay, so so the first thing we're gonna do here is I'll show you guys my settings. All right, so that should turn on. Let me just make myself a little bit bigger so you guys can see what's happening. There we go. All right, so you guys can see all the information. You can see my histogram on the top left, as well as I'm gonna turn off the names real quick because you know who everybody is. How do I show this one?
Who is this guy on the screen? Oh my god.
So, control chaos. So you guys can see like all of the settings. I always have my camera set to manual. I never use the automatic settings because that takes away a lot of control for how much exposure and how much light is going into the shutter and all that stuff. So you want to make sure you have as much control as possible when you take these photos. Secondly, you have your aperture, which is how big or how much light is being put into your what's the word for it, man?
Open your lenses.
Thank you, Kyle. Yep, how open your lens is. You have your shutter speed that lets the camera know how fast or quick your shutter will close and open. And it disappeared because it's on the other side, and there we go.
And we're back.
Yeah, and we're back. And then everything else you guys don't have to worry about. Okay, so one of the first things a lot of people, I don't notice a lot of people do, is make sure you have the timer on. So if I go back into menu, you guys see my menu? You guys, oh yeah, you guys see my menu. Great. All right, so let's see if I can find it real quick. Let's see here.
Yeah, so while Pab's getting this, Dan's right. Modern phones also have a manual function where you can control all the same aspects, your shutter, your focal, your f-stop, all that, and you can do manual focus, and it even has a timer function too. So yes, Dan is right. Your modern phones have the exact same functions. Like we mentioned earlier, the phone I showed you and the camera I showed you, my phone's probably better than the camera if you think about it. The camera's a bit old.
Yeah.
The only limit is your lenses. That's really the only limitation with a cell phone is you're stuck with the lenses attached to the phone. That's really it.
Absolutely. So, okay, here we go. So I have the timer on at 2 seconds. So that gives me, so once I press the shutter button, it gives me a 2 second timer and then takes the photo as I need to, right? Or when it takes a photo. So
why a timer?
So the timer gives the because obviously as you're messing with the camera and all that stuff, you're doing all this. Obviously it's shaking. When you press a button, it gives the camera time to settle before it takes the photo. So you make sure that the camera is absolutely in focus, and that there's no shake whatsoever. So you're just making sure that your focus is 100% on point. All right. So let's take that off real quick. There we go. Okay, so the next thing that I do is, I don't know if you guys can see it, but on top of my camera is another LED light, and that helps with. So if I turn on like my image preview here, you'll see how like exceptionally dark it is, and the aperture and the shutter speed for me are the perfect amount right now, right? Because I don't want to add too much noise to my image by opening up the lens too much, and then I don't want the shutter speed to be extremely slow to let more light in, because that that shutter speed can really mess with the overall exposure. So what I do is,
what about ISO?
okay, so ISO I keep it at 100 or 50. So the absolute lowest your cameras will go, to make sure that your image is as clear as possible. The higher the ISO, the brighter the image, but the more noise you get.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys want to avoid noise as much as possible because you want clarity.
And isn't that
So what I
basically
do,
digital light that the camera's introducing into the photo?
correct? Yes, it's kind of it's an artificial, almost like enhancement of light that's already in your scene. So with this one, I use a ULANZI. I know there's fancier ones these days that change colors and all that stuff, but this is a nice typical white. And then what we'll do is we'll increase this a couple of times, so 3 or 4, and then you can see using like the image preview just how clear and vibrant that image is compared to how it was before. There's no overexposed light whites. There's no harsh shadowing. The harshest shadow is like in between the arm and the torso, but you can still see detail there. And the only thing here that I need to now fix is just the composition of how it's being displayed, right? So I'll show you guys a quick example. Do I have the other thing on? Yeah, okay, great. So let's go ahead and mess with the subject real quick to see what kind of image I want. And using the tripod, you can then kind of raise the image. If you want a nice zoom in, let's zoom in a bit here. We're moving closer. See if that's good. Make sure it's nice and focused. And then when I press the button, 2 seconds, takes a photo. And you guys can see it's nice and clear, right? Like it doesn't look like the preview. So for me, there is like a kind of a, what's the word for it? A complete preview, like right here. That's not the same as your live preview. You can see how in the live preview everything is overexposed, everything is it's just not a nice image. But once you have your image preview here, you can see how much of a difference like that gives.
Okay, so then essentially what you're saying is the image preview will not actually reflect what the photo will ultimately be, right?
Right, correct.
Okay, because Julius just asked that question, and I just wanted to reaffirm that was being answered.
Yeah. And then Otaku Dan says, if you're using a more modern phone, they usually have a pro mode that does the same thing as manual mode. Yes, 100%, absolutely. Let's take a look at Julio's results real quick. Look at that, man. Julio, is there any way you can put that in your computer and upload it and share it?
Yeah.
Sweet, thank you, sir.
Got you.
Thank you. All right, so that's essentially like in basic. This is 100% what I do all the time. It doesn't have to be a black background. Sometimes I use white. Sometimes I use red or blue. Even though you guys have never technically seen me do the red or blue, but it's there. It's just all about making sure your image is in focus, that it's not overblown, it's not overexposed. There's no harsh shadowing, and um, you're using very simple techniques, very basic techniques to make sure that you get your best image possible. Like the timer trick, the ow, the what do you call it, man? The making sure your aperture and your shutter speed are of a decent setting depending on your setup is very important. So for me, if you guys can see, mine is running an aperture 7.1 at a shutter speed of like a tenth of a second. I don't need it to be extremely bright, so I never have to increase my shutter speed, and I never have to have my aperture so high up. And then if you look at the background, um, the black background, you can no longer see. Just go back here real quick. If you look at my background, which was full of um, it was full of like folds and creases and stuff like that.
You see the details
You
of
can
the
no longer
background?
see that. Yeah, it's a plain black background.
You can see mine. I gotta figure that out.
Well, that's what I was just trying to show you, right?
Mm-hmm. I was taking photos. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Julio, tell me what was the shutter speed and the aperture that you were using?
1/100 for aperture. My f-stop was at 6.3, and my ISO was at 25,000.
Why? Okay,
What?
why is your ISO so high?
I have no idea.
Okay, so I know you were taking photos, so I'll go through it one more time. So make sure your ISO is set to 100 or 50/100, depending on how low
Oh
your
yeah, no,
camera
that
will
was
go.
at 1/100, but it says
No,
maybe
your ISO. Set your ISO to 100.
okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So then, what's this other setting?
Well, I need to see what you're doing. You can't say what's the
Oh,
other side because you turned off your
hold on.
video. Mike says this is secretly a high new flex show. It really isn't. Let's take a look. Okay, so you got your ISO at 100, which is
Yeah.
fine. I
Um.
can't really see because of the reflection.
Yeah. You can't really see it, but that's at 1/100 too. I don't know what that is, but I can change it with this.
Yeah, so usually for with that setting is your 1/100. That should be your shutter speed.
So that's my shutter
Um,
speed.
yeah.
Okay.
So for example, you can see me here. Let me see if I can move this. You see here, I'm using this to change my shutter speed here. So right now mine is at 10, so it's a 1/10 of a second, right?
So mine
And
was at
then
100.
yeah, and then for this one is my aperture, and it is at 7.1. And again, that could change for anybody. So, and depending on your environment, how light or dark it is, that could be different. So experiment to see which is better for your environment, because mine might not translate to yours. Whether you're using a photo box or not, or whether you're using just a piece of poster board, or if you're taking photos on your workbench. See which is your which works best for you. See what what you like to look at, and then kind of go with that, and then use your lighting and use your composition to kind of complement those settings.
All right, Pabs. I've got everything set up. So I'm at a shutter speed of 1.6, f-stop 1.6, and then I'm following a 0. I'm at pretty good. Oh, it's doing something. It
It looks
knows.
like did your camera die? What happened?
Oh yeah, the battery got exhausted. I had this thing on the charge the whole fucking time. All right. Well, maybe we're gonna prove that cameras are just as effective as mirrorless lenses because I'm just gonna bust that out.
Oh, 100%. And then let me see here. Julius has a question. Question. Sorry for all the questions. Dude, I welcome questions. Please. Um, how do you figure out what the aperture and shutter speed should be? So for professionals, they use something. I can't remember what it's called now. They use an exposure tool, which is not necessarily something that you would need to do, and it's a lot of it's a lot of kind of trial and error, especially if you don't have that tool, right? Um, I'm trying to remember the name of the tool now because I used to use it constantly. The light meter. Thank you. Oh, there we go. The light meter is what I used to use to kind of figure out the shutter speed and the aperture I need the camera to be. If you don't have that, feel free to use your histogram, which can look very intimidating. Like if I'll show I'll show. I gotta get up and again do it again. If I turn on my camera settings here, you'll see my histogram, right? And that can look pretty intimidating. But that shows you it shows you a quick preview of your exposure values of your shadows, your midtones, and highlights. Across the image that this thing is looking at for your end result. Um, it's it's fairly easy to read. However, that can get like way into it, so it's easier to kind of just look for videos on how to read your histograms, because depending on what camera you use, whether it's your phone camera or your DSLR or your mirrorless, each one kind of is slightly different from the other. Let's see here.
Perhaps I put those couple of photos I took in the critical drive.
The critical drive. Alrighty. Let's go to the drive real quick. Okay, let's see. And then Ranger Chris says, there's something to be said for a more Spartan and explicit menu system. Yeah, I agree with you there. Did you put it in a specific drawer?
Oh no! You know where everyone has their photos for critical builds?
The submission form?
Where all those photos go, because that's the only one that's shared with me, I think.
Okay, let me see if I can find it, man. In the meantime, while I'm doing that, let me see if I can. Let's see. Michael Dawson has a question. How do you attach a cell phone to a tripod? Does every tripod come with an attachment for both cameras and phones? A lot of newer ones do these days.
No.
The ones I have come with a clip that attaches to the that attaches to the tripod. Usually in the description there is one that it lets you know what it comes with, And Julio, I do not see that anywhere. This one is with Mando. Okay, you know what, Julio? What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a new folder with your name on it, and I'm going to share it with you. You can put it in there.
Okay.
And then, so let's copy the link, and we're going to put it in I'm going to put it in private chat here.
Okay.
There you go. All right. And then, do we have any other questions that I may have missed?
Not that I've seen.
Zaku0 says this video is definitely going in the favorite folder. I'm definitely going to have to rewatch this a couple of times with full focus on much knowledge. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I do apologize. Okay, and then Ranger Chris says, depends. Majority, you can assume there will be a screen mount for cameras, but you would need to check with a specific tripod to see if it comes going for phones. So yeah, like I said, the majority of ones that that are more comprehensive than like the very, very basic ones usually come with a phone mount. But again, it usually says in the description what it all comes with, and then that way you can just make sure it has what you need. Did that work for you, Julio?
I'm trying to go to it now. Hold on.
Okay. But yeah, I mean that's essentially like the crux of at least my very basic how I take photos. It's I wouldn't call it like complex at all, because I think it's quite simple, right? The only pitfalls that you kind of I've noticed a lot of people kind of fall on is when they're taking photos. Your subject isn't the focus. You're trying to. Secondly, you're trying to put too much in at the in one photo rather than focusing on certain bits and pieces when that's not necessary. And three, your exposure values. You know, a lot of photos tend to be overexposed or underexposed, and just making sure you have a decent light setup is more than enough and more than what you need to be able to achieve photos, like what I've done here, or what Julio will show you and Kyle's doing right now, because he's taking photos with his cell phone using nothing more than pro mode and the settings that we had just talked about.
The link you sent me to request permission, but I shared those photos from it, uploaded to my Google Drive. I thought it went to that folder.
It's empty.
Goddamn electronics.
Oh, I think it's because I went to I changed it to something else. But I'll send it again, Julio. Just try it one more time. And so that way we can see what you've actually done so far.
Okay. They are not great photos, I'll tell you that.
And I'll kind of tell you kind of where kind of where the where you may be going wrong here. Well, first of all, you don't have a tripod.
Yeah, I don't.
You need to get you a tripod and a boom arm, I guess.
You ask a lot of me.
I said, we'll get you one. You said, get yourself one.
You make me a better
Feel
person.
like a natural woman. So, if you guys have any other questions, I'm happy to take them right now while we wait for Julio to upload his stuff.
So I think the what do you call that? When you have one number and then a slash and another number underneath it, what is that?
The aperture.
Wait, it's the aperture, right?
Well, no. The fracture number is usually your shutter speed.
Okay, so I put mine down to like 1/4 to get some more light in it, and I set my ISO to 800, and it's still like taking really dark photos or decently dark photos. I don't know if you can see this.
Well, let's take a look. I mean, okay, so Show me your settings one more time.
My what?
Your settings.
Okay. I think you can see that, like.
I can't really see the number on the left. So so when it says 1/4, that means it's a quarter of a second
Yeah.
shutter, right? Where I have mine as a tenth of a second. You have ISO at 800 for some reason.
So I can get some light in there. Else it was like taking like they were dark photos. Like I'll show you. Wrong way. This was at 100.
Okay, so so like I said, this is a good example of because of your environment, your settings are going to be a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
So what I would do is since you don't have a tripod and you're doing things by hand, having the shutter speed be slower might be more of a detriment for you. So you might want to increase your aperture.
So bring my aperture up.
Yeah, make it so that the lens opening is larger, so you get more lighting.
All right, I'm gonna put it on 110. I'm gonna leave it at 800.
Leave it.
Bring it down.
Bring it down.
Bring it to 100.
And then Dave B has a question. Is an external flash recommended, not needed for controlled environments? So Dave, it depends on your setup. For me personally, I don't need to use an external flash, just because my environment is very, very, very controlled. I don't need to use it for my setup. At work, I do use a remote flash. Okay, so what are you showing me here? So what was the settings on that one?
This is
So
at 110
ISO 100.
aperture with
Okay.
ISO at 100.
Increase your aperture more.
Okay. I'm gonna bring it up to 125.
Wait, are you increasing your aperture or your shutter speed?
Oh no, my shutter speed. You're right.
I need you to increase your aperture.
You're right. I'm gonna bring my aperture
Just remember the F.
to 800.
Your f-stop, essentially, yes.
My f stops at 6.3.
So increase that.
Okay.
So is it too much light or not enough light?
What is?
For Julio's, I wasn't really paying attention.
So for his there's not enough light. So Julio, the lower the number is for your f-stop, the larger the lens will be.
Ooh, that's a nice fucking photo.
Okay, so Kyle, did you have a question?
No, I hate this camera. So the way it works with most cell phones, especially when they have multiple lenses, you can't control your aperture. You have to pick that specific lens to get locked into that aperture.
Correct. Yes.
And I have to remember which lens is which aperture, and it's a pain in the ass. Like, I'm sure the wide angle is not the lowest aperture, but it's just like.
Here's I totally forgot this tip. But I'm gonna switch cameras real quick and go into this one right here, right? So I don't know if you guys saw what Julio was doing just now, but make sure that your subject is closer to your camera than to your background. Right? A lot of people have it in the middle. And having your subject closer to the background means that your background will stay in focus. You want kind of a bokeh effect. So moving it closer to your camera means that this will be in focus while your background won't be, and that'll help you kind of take more clearer photographs, like so.
All right, Peps. I took one of my shots in because the issue I'm running into is my lighting. My camera settings will either get too much blowout and I can see too much of the background with adjusting, and if I adjust where everything's good, my lighting is the problem. That makes sense?
Yes. So I kind of need to see what you are working with.
Okay, so I have, I don't know what the f-stop is. I have to look it up again. I think it's 1.4. Right?
That's
Okay,
a
so you're
good one.
working.
Off the press.
So you're
Alright.
working with an aperture of 1.4. So your lens is so this is kind of like the kind of a pitfall because you're using a cell phone camera. Your aperture and your shutter speed are kind of connected, so you can't really. So
I
once you
can't
start
adjust
adjusting
against them.
one,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't adjust the other because
Well, so
they're
actually,
going.
the aperture is fixed. With this particular, it's got 4 lenses, and each of them have their own aperture. So I can
Okay.
I can adjust them independently, much like an LSR, but I can't adjust my aperture. I'm
Okay,
locked
so
in at
Kyle,
one.
do you have another lamp that you can use?
Another what?
Another lamp, another light.
Yes. So I have 2 currently on, and I have a third that I can point at the kid or at the background.
Okay, so what I want you to do is grab that lamp, right,
Mhm.
and then put it at the foot
Oh,
of your tripod.
here.
Well, first of all, how close is your tripod?
I'm pretty damn close to the kit, but the kit's pretty far from the background.
Okay, I mean that's fine. I need to know how far how
I
close
will
your
give you,
tripod is.
before we come game plan this, let me actually show you what we're working with so you can see
Let me
more adequately what we got.
let me focus you out. There you
Okay. Camera. So we've got the kit at edge of table, essentially. I can move it a little further or close to the lens. Camera 1, camera 2, wrapped in paper for diffuse.
You mean lamp 1, lamp 2?
Yeah, lamp 1. Sorry. Me. So this camera is pointed at the kit. This one is pointed up and away from the kit.
Oh. So the first thing I need you to do, Kyle, is point the lamp that's pointing at the kit away from it. Point it towards the background.
Got it.
Okay. And then the other one is perfectly fine. And then where is the other light that you said you had?
Oh, it's up. It's right here. I can move it.
Okay.
It's just a clip.
So take that one and put it at the foot of the tripod and point that at your kit.
Okay. So essentially, right here.
Put it in front of the tripod, and then point it at your kit. Not too close. Is there any way you can diffuse that light?
I have a low and high.
Put it at the lowest it can go.
So it's high. That's low.
Okay, that's okay. I mean, that's
See?
okay.
So
Yeah,
no
I see.
light.
Okay, so go ahead and take that light and put it on the floor, but kind of away from like further away than that. So
So
that's too
not like
close.
that.
That's way too close.
Okay. Like that?
That might work. And then move your tripod further away, and then do a digital zoom on your subject. Not too far away, because you don't want the noise that you get from a digital zoom, but just far away enough.
All right. I don't know if I can digitally zoom now that you mention it.
You should be able to.
Should, yeah, but new camera. I'm still learning the lenses. Okay. Let's see.
Sorry, I was muted. So he says, have you guys talked about white balance? I have not. Thank you for reminding me.
Right here.
Chris.
I can digitally
We'll talk
zoom.
about that in a second. Okay, so make sure your aperture and shutter speed are quite low.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hold on.
And this is a really good. I think this is a really good kind of example of taking pictures of a glossy or a shiny kit, because
Yeah.
you want that shine, you want that reflexivity. So go ahead and take a photo, Kyle.
Well, I'm sporting ISO 100, of course. We're at 1.6 on the shutter. I know aperture. It's the 1.4. It's either that or 2.2. Either way.
Yeah.
All right, taking a picture. It's fairly bright in the preview.
Go ahead and take a look at that in the gallery and see how that looks.
All right, let me shoot it your way. All right, coming your way.
I don't know where you sent it at. Where did you send it at?
Pads,
Oh, there we go.
I don't have permission to edit that folder.
Okay, 1 second.
Just send it to the chat, Julio, like I'm doing.
Or you can send it through Instagram if you want to. I can take a look at it that way, and
Because I think in the
save it.
messenger it won't cut it, right?
It shouldn't. It shouldn't. And then let me see here. Robert Kurt says, if lighting is blowing up photo, maybe decrease ISO. Yes. I always tell people to go to as low as an ISO as possible, and then have your aperture and your shutter speed control the amount of light you are taking. Yeah.
I need a tripod, man. That picture's blurry.
All right, so now I'm at ISO 50 because this camera can drop even lower than 100. My mirrorless, that's where it's capped at. 100 is the lowest.
Okay, gotcha.
20,000 is the highest.
All right,
Okay.
so I'm going to save this this image of Julio's, and I'm going to show everybody if you're okay with that, Julio. If you give me consent.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so here's Julio's image, right? Let's go ahead and have it move it a little bit. There we go. So here is what I mean by the importance of having. Yes.
Can't see it.
Oh, sorry. There you go. And then making your focus. Or actually, we'll have everybody focus. So here we go. And then take off Robert's thing, but we'll talk about that in a quick second. So, so is this your first example, Julio, or is this the one that you were very excited about taking?
This is the one I was very excited about. I couldn't tell that it was that blurry on that little screen.
Right. So, this is an example of why you should get a tripod, right? Because since you're taking photos with your hand, and you're, having taking photos by holding it means you are highly susceptible to camera shake, and you won't be able to get the focus that you need to be able to get a clear image. This is I do like this. I'm not a fan of the yellow light in the background.
That's just this
that one might be a little too close to your background.
Okay.
Maybe move that a little bit further away. And then, is this the one with your ISO at 800, or is this your ISO at 100?
800.
Okay. Why do you keep going back to ISO 800?
Because I can't get enough light in there.
So when you have ISO 800, right? I'm gonna zoom in here. You can see all of the digital noise. You see that? Like all the digital noise, even like away from your, apart from the shakiness of it, like it's not in focus. You can see a lot of the digital noise, in kind of the edges right here.
Yeah.
So it makes for a very grainy image. So the lower the ISO, the clearer the image will be, and you kind of want this to be clear and concise. Like,
Yeah.
I'll make an example here and go camera actually. Here we go. So compare that to
Make yourself bigger.
how you had your. Oh, sorry. Compare that to how you have your image, and I'll zoom out so that there you go.
You can see a lot of it in the lighting. That's most prominent. The noise is.
So you can see the differences in
blur.
clarity. Right? Cool. Okay, and then Robert, was it Robert who's? Oh, is it Chris? Ranger Chris? Thank you for reminding me. Let's talk about white balance real quick because I'm an idiot. So for those that don't know, white balance is the technically the kind of a layman's terms. It's the temperature in which the image will be taken. You'll be taking a photo in it, right? Warm temperatures are more, the natural lighting will look a lot more orange and yellow and red, whereas you're going for colder lighting, you'll get more blues and purples and stuff like that. You want to be in the exact middle, and you want to make sure your whites are at a true white. And to do that, usually what you do is, there are tools you can do this with, but to be completely simple and fair, let's go into, there's a button on my camera called white balance right here. So right now I have it at auto, because my settings completely fine. However, there are different settings you can go. You can adjust it as you need to be. And then you can go into adjust, go to 1, and then you can just use like a plain piece of white paper. I don't have one on hand. And then you can focus in, make sure that this is the absolute white you need it to be. and that's pretty much set for me. I'll go back to auto because I don't need to change anything there. And that's white balance. Nice and simple. And you can see how much of an easier time Kyle is having because he has the tripod, he's doing the timer, whereas Julio is having to, hunch over and try to take photos this way. It's all about making things easier for you. Like it's easy to
Spending
take
more time
photos.
adjusting things than actually taking a picture.
Yeah, absolutely. So while Kyle is taking photos there, so what I'll do is I'll save one of the one Kyle threw in, if that's okay, Kyle.
No, go for it.
And then I'll show you guys the examples that
Teach
he's
me how to
been.
make it better.
I'll try my best, dude. Let's see here. Let's save this one and this one. Good. Okay. So let's go ahead and open the first one. There we go. And we'll show that to everybody. Oops, that's my face. There we go. All right, so I'm going to make it bigger. So we'll zoom out. Oh, I can't zoom out. Okay.
I
Sure.
thought there was more to that picture than that.
Yeah, since you're taking photos in portrait, it's a little more difficult to zoom out of.
Well, I think I have it set. What am I at? 1:1. Yeah. No
Yeah,
change
this
in ratio.
we'll sort this out. One moment. So this is it's as zoomed out as I can get, but I mean, you guys get the idea. So, let's see here. All right, so let me see. So for Kyle's image, I mean, I think this is a really good start. You have your kid is in focus. It's good. The only thing is it is quite dark, right? And obviously you need to have a little bit more light, and the two lights that you have are perfectly fine. However, you're missing a third one, which is what I was trying to get you to get to really highlight the rest of your kit. You don't need too strong of a light, but I think this is one that's really missing that to get the highlights in. And then your second image here. Let me see if we can get that up. There we go. So your second image is a lot better, right? Is there any way I can make this smaller? Sorry guys. Let me see if I can do this. There we go. Sweet. Okay. All right. Bear with me. Okay. That's better. Okay. Cool. So the second one is definitely better. The only thing that I would say is that the light you're using to highlight it now is a little it's a little too harsh. So definitely diffuse it a bit, and that should get you the highlights better because you're seeing the speckling of the metallics that you used, or the kind of the chrome underneath. And that's something I tend to stay away from. But I think this is a good image overall.
Yeah, I got some paper I can throw over it. It's big enough. I can diffuse that bad boy.
And then Robert Kurtz says, white balance / color temperature can also be dialed in on photo editing apps, especially if actual lighting temperature choices are limited. 100%, Robert. Usually, what I try to tell people is to stay away from editing stuff. There is still, it's okay to edit your temperatures and your white balance. But my goal usually is to make sure that you don't have to do as much of that as possible.
Think of the old camera style where they didn't have programs to do it, so you had to set it up appropriately from the camera itself.
Yes.
They had to develop them later.
Right. All right. Do you guys have any questions so far? Any comments or concerns?
Yeah, how do I make my kit less shiny?
Well, that was kind of your choice right there.
Yeah.
All right. I think I took some better ones. I just gotta get them off my camera.
Sure. And the thing that's really nice about, for example, before Cal was using his mirrorless camera and I'm using mine, if I wasn't using my phone as a camera to show you guys this scene, there is a way to connect your camera to your phone so that way you get more of a truer sense of what it will look like
Yeah.
compared to just that tiny
You
on-screen
got a
on your
taste of it
camera.
before my camera died.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Robert Crit says, I agree with capturing as much in-camera as possible of available equipment. Yeah, like with my stuff, like whenever I take photos, I'll almost no editing whatsoever. Like I don't mess with the color temperature, the exposures, the shadows, the lights. It's all just from the apparatus that I'm using. Is there anything else I can talk about, or anything else I could? I mean, if you guys have any, you guys in the chat, if you guys have any other questions, um, let me know. Talk to me. Julius is asking questions. Did you discuss positioning of light sources? Does the light source ever have to move closer or further from the subject? We did briefly touch on it, Julius. So let me show you what I was saying here earlier. So the way I have my light set up here is I have my two lights being diffused by the walls of the photo box pointed away from the kit. Now, however, depending on how you want the outcome of your image to be, it's feel free to move it to get the results that you need, right? So for me, since space is limited, I can kind of move the light kind of closer or further away. So for example, I'll move it closer here at an angle. I'll move this one here even closer and kind of point it more towards the kit. Oh, maybe don't drop it. Let's see here. Yeah, point it towards the subject a little bit more, and not be kind of tangled in the wire there. And then if I kind of move this and zoom out a bit, and kind of just finagle a bit. God damn it, I'm dropping everything.
No, just don't hurt your kit.
All right, so all right, let me see if you guys can see what I see, and then let's move over to the actual image here, and then we'll get like a more accurate depiction of it.
Do you see what I see?
Okay. You can see, the the image itself. Like there are a lot more. I'll make myself bigger here for a second. There's a lot more harsher shadowing on places like on the crotch here, on the other side of the kit because it's slightly tilted. So there's it's a lot more of a dramatic image. So that's that would work if you're say taking a photo of something a lot shinier, like say Kyle's kit, or something glossed, something with an overcoat. Let me see if I can find a sub. I was going to see if I can find a subject that was more glossy than this, but I currently do not have something that could do that.
Ooh, found that sweet spot for the lighting. Let me knock down on my reflection.
And then let's see here. Robert Kurtz says, depth of field to separate subject from background, choices on background, black, white, gray, etc. Yes, Robert. So I do have different backgrounds that we will talk about, and this is really more towards things that if you're not using a lightbox per se, we'll talk about backgrounds probably in another episode because we're an hour and a half in, and setting up and taking down the photo box might take a bit too much time to kind of do that. So we'll do that in the next one.
Well, I sent you another photo.
Okay. And then Robert Kurtz again says angles / shot comparison for gram-friendly photos to illustrate sense of scale. And yeah, and that's something we kind of touched upon earlier, where we were talking about kind of the composition of the piece, kind of talking about the rule of thirds and the golden ratio to make sure that your eye is drawn to the places that you want the person to look at, right? So that follows that composition kind of what I was talking about. And then we got Frankie RG. He says, "How am I late to 2 classes today? I don't know, dude. That's on you."
And the last photo I sent you, I took with my phone.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I sent
let's
you
go
two comparison, one darker, one lighter.
Okay.
Talk about.
So let me go ahead and save this image, and then we'll save Julio's cell phone image. Oops.
Cell phone's not bad, man.
No, not at all. So let's save. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at Julio's first image here. I think that's the right one. Yeah. All right. So let's go to this one right here, and if I could go back to. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. All right. So obviously, this is very dark, right? So you're going. So if someone were to look at this, you're looking at this with more of a dramatic effect. And using your camera settings, I still think your shutter speed and your aperture are in kind of the wrong spots. However, it is. I mean, it's a little more in focus. It's still a little bit shaky, but if this image was just a little bit brighter, it would definitely be better, right?
Yeah.
And then looking at your cell phone image, um, it's obviously a lot brighter. You're getting a lot more detail. It's clearly in focus. The only thing I would say is since your background is also in focus, you're getting like the smears and the creases and stuff like that, which I usually try to stay away from.
So if I take my camera image and just lighten it a bit, you think be alright?
I mean, okay, so here's actually thank you, Julio. So talking about saving your images, right? I like to save my images both in RAW and JPEG. So having the raw image means that you have all of the data preserved whenever you move it to say a photo editing suite like Photoshop or GIMP or any photo editing program you want to use. And from there, you can kind of change, like we were talking about, you can change the temperature and the temperature of the image, the exposure, the shadows, and the lights like that. And if you need to do that, go for it, because I don't think that's technically editing your image if it's already part of the data that you have in your role. So I always recommend you make sure that you save it both in RAW and JPEG. And then DB has a question. Sometimes there are size limitations when uploading photos online. Is it a good idea to compress photos before uploading? Dave, yes, depending on where you want to save it at. First of all, I think you should always have like I said, your raw image and your JPEG. It's so you can usually what I like to do is I like to resize it because for example, if you're posting to Instagram, your image size is limited to 1000 by 1000, and obviously that's going to compress your images by quite a lot. Facebook has less of a data limit or a size limit, but as long as it's not compromising the detail of your image, then that's perfectly fine to compress photos or make them a little bit smaller, change the image size to accommodate it better for if you're uploading it to a platform. Let's see here. So hopefully a lot of this makes sense to you guys, because I mean, I'm trying to make this like as easy, but also at the same time as in depth as I can, without going into things that that can get too complicated, if you know what I mean. I mean, if it doesn't make any sense, I'm really sorry.
My camera battery's dying.
Oh boy. You guys knew this was happening. Why didn't you charge either of your batteries?
It was
Mine
on
was
the
like more than
bottom of my
halfway,
mind.
and taking all those photos, it was like doo 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 doo.
If you guys are like Julio and Kyle, if you guys are taking photos, I would like alongside these guys. I would love to see your results. You know, hopefully, like I said, hopefully a lot of this makes sense to you guys. If you guys have any further questions after the show, please feel free to message me, and I'll try my best to answer you. If you guys want me to look at the images that you guys have taken, again, just feel free to send it to me, and I'll be more than happy to kind of, go back and forth with it.
Babs, look at my 40 million photos I just sent you.
Oh, good God. Okay, hold on.
Oh, it's been Julio posted a bunch.
He didn't post as many as you,
I don't even see his.
because he's been sending it like away from the other thing that you're sending it at.
Oh, so I'm the asshole. Okay, got it.
Okay, so let's take a look at the. So I mean, a lot of these are more or less the same, except the last one you sent. So let's go ahead and save those
Yeah,
two. And then,
minor adjustments to shutter.
right. So obviously, let me share this one. So this is the first one of the first ones you sent. And make this bigger. I think this is overall, Kyle. This is a good image. Like, I think it's a good image overall. It is, you do have some focus issues, because the more you zoom in, the more you realize, hey, this is not in focus.
Yeah,
And
the way the phone does peaking, I don't like it. I wish it was similar to the way my mirrorless
there
does it.
is there is a manual focus on
Yeah,
cameras
so
if
I'm
you.
using manual focus, and it does the peaking, so you know where the edges are focused. It's like delayed though, so I can't tell if I'm actually like where it said it is, or if I'm, you know, focused further closer than it would show.
But it's
So,
honestly, man, it isn't too bad. And then let's go ahead and take a look at the other one here, which is slightly. I'm guessing your shutter speed is a little slower here, so you're letting more light in.
mhm.
And I'm noticing. I mean, for first of all, this is a little bit more in focus than the other one.
Yeah,
In terms of composition here, this isn't too bad. This is a little too far to the left, I think. So if you
yeah.
were to say move your entire subject to the right,
Mhm.
so if we're working with the rule of thirds, it's going to be in that third intersection right here. This is going to be in the first intersection here, and it just makes for a more interesting photo. Um,
I got the grids up while I'm doing it too. So,
and then
because here
finally,
I'll show you what it looks like on the thing. Because I thought it was fine, but you're right. It is hard edge.
yeah. So
Let me
yeah,
see
if you're
here.
looking at let me make it bigger a little bit, Phil. So if you're looking at the image right now, look, I mean, if you look at it, your subject is right dead center, away from all of the intersection lines.
You just like do that.
Yes, a little bit more, yeah, a little bit more if you can.
To the left.
Yes, towards yeah, there you go. So essentially, it's in
Ah,
that third
got it. So
across
you're
from.
putting the barrel like right there in that quadrant.
Yes,
Okay.
and that'll help kind of frame it a little bit better, make it more visually interesting.
Mhm.
And then, all right, so let's make you a little bit smaller. And then Julius has a question. Could you talk about what Julio should adjust to make his two latest photos better? So for the DSLR that he took, um, you were still using ISO 800, I take it, Julio?
No, that was ISO 200 with like a 1/4 shutter speed.
1/4.
And like the f-stop was at like 10, I think, give or take.
Oh, okay, so the problem that you're getting, Julio, is is 200 the lowest you can go, or
No, I
100?
can go down. I can go down to 100. Yeah, but
Okay.
it's seriously like no. It's just all you see is the LEDs.
Yeah. So the trap that you're getting is
And then drop it
Um,
to aperture.
yeah. So you obviously need to make your lens go larger. You need to make your shutter speed a little bit longer, and you need a tripod.
I need a
Like
tripod.
like
You right.
using the tripod and using the timer, you'll get that focus in. And then messing with your aperture and your shutter speed, you'll get the right amount of light in.
Oh, and you can turn your shutter down like way down to compensate for your poor lighting.
Yes.
If I had another table in front, I could probably
Set it on your
do
lap and
this.
just sit still. Don't breathe.
Don't breathe.
Don't
Actually,
breathe.
technically, put it on your chair.
Yeah, you have another chair in front of you,
And
behind you,
just
right?
Yeah,
sit
but
off
I
to the
can't see
side.
what's on the lens. You know what I mean?
And then Depp shall burn. Is that right? It says that's a fire T-shirt, Julio. I think that's Julio.
Thank you.
Do you have
That's
a
that.
box somewhere?
That Gojira.
Julio, do you have a box you can put on the chair to kind of raise it to see the lens better?
I actually have another table, the one that I replaced and got an actual desk with. I just have to move the chair out of the room and then put that table in front of the subject and then put this down and start taking photos.
That'll definitely help.
Yeah, it'll
And
probably-
if you guys think about it, if you guys look at my setup compared to so I'm gonna move it further away. Give me one second.
I actually sent you another photo, Pabs, from the DSLR. Man, I don't know how I took photos before this. Make that shit look good.
Okay, so if you guys look at my setup, right, my lights are definitely brighter than yours, Julio.
Yeah.
And I also have that front-facing LED on the camera.
Oh, it's on the subject.
It's on, but it's highly diffused.
Ooh. I have the ring light. Could I use that ring light?
Work. So before I
Piece of
got
paper in front
this LED unit on top of my camera, I used to just use the ring light that's in front of me right now, and I used to put it in front of the camera.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that.
And I would
Would
I
the
would
ring
put
light
it
be too harsh or?
well,
is
I
it-
would put it at the absolute lowest possible.
I might diffuse that too.
You could diffuse that too, yes. So I mean, like the biggest difference between our setups is just my lights are just a little bit and also I've noticed your lights are very yellow.
Yeah, they're very warm, especially this one.
Get some LEDs, boy.
Get some white LEDs.
They're LEDs. This one
What
can
spectrum
filter
are they
between warm and cool. That one's
on?
on
Are
cool.
they 5,000s or less?
Would you call me?
So the K value of it, if it's within 5,000, that's close.
Oh, I have no idea, dude. This is Target at like $6,
Okay.
and
Well,
then
you should
normally
say it in
just
the
my
box.
work lights. You know.
You should say it in the box though,
Yo.
but yeah, if it's
What?
like 3,000, that's more of a warm tone.
What the? How did I not know Ricardo was Filipino? Is he Filipino?
You can see it in his throat. This one I actually bought for photography, the one that's on my bed, and it can go through the full spectrum.
Okay, so that's good. It's very important you get. I mean, obviously, for in terms of like a very balanced image, white or
On both sides?
daylight LEDs. Yeah, like make sure they're white, because if you are running warmer lights, your color temperature is going to be in that spectrum, and it's going to throw the colors off because you want true colors.
And then you'd have to adjust the white balance on your whatever you're using. to take
On my
pictures. That's
photos.
digitally done. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Deb Shelburne says that was some great advice, y'all. Thanks so much. Have a great night. Have a good night, Deb.
Have a good night, bro.
Julius has got a question for us, Pabs.
Yep, Julius. Question: are the lights on the sides of your light box halogen or LEDs? Those are LEDs. It's,
So maybe.
oh, and Ricardo is not Filipino, but he practices Kali. I get it.
Oh,
Man, I don't want to mess with. I don't want to mess with Ricardo. Nobody mess with Ricardo.
it's too far away, but I think it'll work. I think the ring light is more cool, way more cool
Bet.
Cuckoo.
than this. So yeah, I'm gonna set it up.
Okay. So, that light that you just turned off, can you replace that with a wider LED bulb?
With the ring light I just turned on.
No.
No,
That one you just turned
in the
off.
background.
Oh yeah,
That- Can you replace the bulb in that with a white LED?
I don't know. I never opened it up.
Okay.
Maybe.
What's it look like? Bring it close to the camera. We can look at it.
It's clamped to his table.
Yeah, it's clamped to my table, and like the power cord isn't too far.
Okay, we'll
But,
look at it later then.
It's like
Oh, yeah, that's not a
$6, dude. Target.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can grab one, because obviously a lot of like desktop LEDs tend to be of that warmer variety, because that's kind of you want warmth in your house.
Yeah.
It's easier to get a true color image if you use a white LED. I feel like that's a very important point to make.
Kalima! Steal his heart and shit. No!
But yeah, I mean, if anybody else has any questions, I think now would be a good time to kind of wrap it up. Because obviously, for the next episode, what I'll do is I'll take down this light box, and then we'll talk about taking photos the way Kyle and Julio are doing.
I'll pick a kit that isn't shiny and maybe change out the background for some.
And then, yeah, and then for those that
More
don't have for those that don't have space, like a dedicated space to take photos with, what I'll also do is I'll show you guys examples of how to take photos on your workbench.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
so-
what I did for the Sandrock.
Yeah, so for the images like if you guys have seen Anacre, where he takes photos of just of it in front of his his workbench, or and I'm trying to remember who else does it, Suihuya, and all that stuff. If you guys want images like that, I'll also show you how to take that. Like actually, you know what? I have an example of that. That's
Oh, look at the photo I sent you,
Take
Brad. Look at the photo I
a
sent you.
progress picture on your bench.
let's look at Julio's photo that he said. Which one do you want me to show, Julio?
The most recent one I sent you.
The most recent one? Okay, sure. Sure. And this is your DSLR, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and look at this real quick. And you can see, let me see. Resin news. Let's go make it big. You can see it's improving, right? Like going through the settings, making sure your shutter speed and your aperture are work for the lights that you're using. You can see that it's improving. You're obviously a lot more in focus now. It's still kind of blurry. There's still a little bit of noise, but this isn't bad, Julio. Honestly, this isn't bad at all.
Pamps.
That was at 200 with a quarter speed, and ISO like 10. I mean, f-stop like 10.
F-stop 10. Okay, it's not bad. Yeah. Yes, Scott.
Question for you guys. So in this particular image, Julio, you're pretty much level with the kit, right?
Yeah.
So would it possibly be recommended that you sit kind of below the level line and look up at it? In this particular, because of the way the head is and the shadows.
Sure. There's nothing wrong with being eye level to it. It is a nicer composition if you're looking up at it to get a better sense of scale, right? It just depends on what kind of image Julio is going for. If he's going for an eye level one where you can just see the details and stuff like that, and you're looking at it in a nice kind of three-quarter view, this isn't bad. I would try different angles of you looking up at it, just to get a more like I said, a more sense of scale and a more dramatic effect, because it looks like you're a guy looking up at this massive hulking robot thing in maintenance. So it's really more for composition's sake. But yes, Kyle, you're right. And then in terms of like the example I was talking about, let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about. It's not the right. Let's see. Pictures. I really should have gotten these ready. Here we go. All right. All right. So for images like this, right, you have no background, and your there's no plain neutral background, but still the images are, is still of your subject. You've got a nice bokeh effect going on. Your depth of field is very deep, so the focus isn't on the background, it's on the actual kit itself. Even looking at this one right here, where you're looking down at it, there's still stuff all around it, but it's not detracting from the image itself. And here's one where you're looking up at it. So, I'll show you guys how to do this. It's very easy. It's very simple. Whether or not you want to use your phone or not. Like for example, this is with a cell phone.
A cellular device. Uh-huh.
Yes, this is also with a cell phone. So, you're not limited to just what type of camera you're using. Whether you use a mirrorless camera like here, or a cell phone like this one. We'll cover that. We'll make sure that you guys are caught up with we'll make sure that we cover all bases essentially. And again, if you guys have any questions about any of this, because I do apologize, it's been a long day. I'll do my best to cover it. I'll do my best to answer your questions. If you guys have results from this, please show me or show us and let us know.
I'd love to see it.
I would absolutely love to see it. And then what else is there to talk about? You guys have anything else you guys want to talk about?
Miguel Madley, what up, Anubis?
I mean, I think we pretty much covered the basis of what we wanted to today, and then future episodes will go more in depth.
Yes,
to be more prepared.
No. It's not about really going in depth. It's really going.
Show other
methods, other methods, and other ways to take photographs, because you don't need a photo box to get the results that I get, or that you absolutely don't need that. So I'll show you guys how to do all of this in as simple and as a cheap way as possible. If you guys want to go a little more of a pricier route, I'll show you that too. Hopefully, all of this makes sense. If not, I first of all, I apologize, and then let me know which part doesn't make sense, and I'll do my best to clarify that for you. And then let's go through the two here real quick. Julio, where can they find you, man? Find images of this new thing that you just made.
You can find me on the internet, Clipping Nubs. I am happy to be here because I learned some stuff, and hopefully next lesson I'll just use my DSLR more instead of my phone. Mm-hmm. Oh no! Wait. Next episode is more phone, less DSLR.
More phone. Yes,
that's something I should be saying. My camera more, which I didn't use at all in this entire video.
Charge your batteries, please.
No, yeah, definitely charge everything. I want to get to learn this camera better, and this is definitely going to help.
Right. And yeah, thank you, Julio. Thank you for showing up. And
no problem, man.
Yeah, man. All right, and then Kyle.
Kile.
Always on the floor, this man.
It's comfortable.
Well, I mean, it's just comfortable. It works. The chair is what's holding the laptop. I can't sit on it. No, thanks again, Pabs, for this. I know you've been trying to take photos of this kid forever and a day, and boy, there's a reason why I don't paint things in gloss. It is a fucking nightmare to take photos of.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that too. Hopefully, maybe next. I
think next time I do this, I'll just do the daylight setup.
Yeah,
and go from there. That way, I don't have to worry about diffusing every light known to man, and I'll just take it in the daylight and not try to do a drastic. What's the word I want to use? Black background to gold piece kind of shit with the contrast.
Right.
Just gray background, natural light. Call it a day, and then I can not deal with this kid ever.
I'm gonna try to get one of those velvet backgrounds. It's just nice and smooth and fluffy.
Well, I mean, so what I'm using is just it's a roll of construction paper.
Yeah, that's what
I use for dioramas.
honestly, that's all you need, man. Like you
And
don't need
I
to.
have gray.
I don't like
too.
my crinkles. I got crinkles
Yeah,
in there, man.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. All right, before we go, I'm just gonna show you
got this
guys real
too.
quick. Let me go back to the studio image, right? And it's going to take a while for it to pop up. Um, give it a second. But in the come on now, hurry up now. Okay, there we go. You can see on mine, right? I'll make it bigger. You can see that mine has creases and all that stuff and blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
But then if I go to the camera actual, do
all
you
about
see
the
any of?
f-stop.
I don't see none of that.
It's about the f-stop.
Yeah, it's all about the f-stop
The F stop is doo doo.
It's that well, you just gotta drop it. Stop being at 10. Go lower than 8, and you'll actually see that bouquet.
I had it at. I don't know. I'll show you. But I had
Yeah.
it low. It was doo doo.
You gotta be a brave boy.
So
Like-
Paps, explain why an f-stop of 10 versus an f-stop of 4 and below hinders your background. Like it just shows
Well,
too much.
First of
What's
all,
your review, right?
the higher the number, the smaller your lens is,
Eye
right?
hole.
Smaller.
Yeah. Like
Yes.
it's closing in.
Right. So the larger the lens is, or the larger the opening for the lens is, the more light can come in. Um, you absolutely need obviously more light, especially with your setup, Julio. So if we focus on you one more time, your lights are very like low,
Ooh.
and then you also have them diffused, and they're also very warm. So you're not letting the right amount of light in, and since your image since your the amount of light is so low, you're now trying to compensate for that by increasing your ISO and increasing your shutter speed. And then since you're not using a tripod, since your shutter speed is so slow, you'll get your shakes and you're not in focus and stuff. Yeah.
Also,
And since your ISO is so high, you're getting that noise, which you definitely don't want.
Julio, what is your lens? What millimeter is it for your focal? For your, is it wide angle, 30 mil? What is it?
It's 18 to 55.
Okay. So whatever it was at when you zoomed in, would put you, and that's going to play into the bokeh, not as much as your f-stop, but it does play into that as well. Your focal point.
It was at 25.
Okay, so that shouldn't be bad. Yeah,
It's
just drop your
it's really
f-stop.
most it's really your aperture that you're stumbling on, and the fact that you're obviously taking handheld photos.
Yeah.
Because when you have your aperture at those larger numbers too, not only is it letting less light in, it's also taking more into focus. So the lower f-stops have more light because more lens, and it also has less range of focus. Like, so my face, if you're an f-stop 1.4, you can only focus on my face. Everything else is blown out. You go to 10, you start seeing more of a background, and then up into like 22.
Right. It's why you're getting that. It's why you're getting that weird contrast on your image, right?
My background.
Mhm.
Yes, on your background. So if you look at your let's go back to. Oops, that's my face. Oops, that's the wrong one. Okay, here we go. You see how, and it's very hard to see because it's quite dark. But if I zoom in, you can see that there's a lot of fracturing and a lot of contrasting on your image right here, especially on this top corner where you had your warmer light.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the main reasons why you're getting that. So, also the fact that Instagram tends to downsample your image.
Oh
So-
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
if you drop to like 4 or below, because that way, if you have a very large kit, that's the thing you have to consider too, is you're going to have a lot in the image that you still need to focus on. So if you go to like 2 or less, you may lose detail on your kit because you're going to focus dead smack in the middle of the lens, and everything else from it will blur out. So you probably want to stay at around a 4 and maybe a 5. That way you have the overall kit still in focus, but your background is not in focus.
Right.
A 10, too much of it's going to be in focus. You definitely have to drop it below an 8.
It's definitely bigger than a master grade.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I think maybe a 2 is too low because then you'll have pieces around the edge of your kit that are going to blur out, and you won't have that high contrast either.
Good.
there you go. All right, so and then Miguel has a question. Wait, I missed it. Will there be another episode that will focus mostly on phones? Yes. since there's so much to cover, there's so much information that we need to talk about. I will be talking about, again, having taking photos with no photo box, taking photos with your cell phone, taking photos on your workbench, all of that stuff. I'm going to cover as much as I can. So there will be another episode, Miguel. Hopefully you won't be late for that one.
Mm.
All right. So I'm going to focus on me real
I
quick.
forgot DD.
Big thank you guys for coming through. I know I was stumbling all over my words, and like I said, it's been a stupidly long day. I'm going to try to be a little bit more rested for the next one. I'll announce when the next one is. Um, there'll probably be a critical builds before the next one. We'll see. But keep an eye out on our social medias, Clip and Nubs, at Clip and Nubs, at Clueless Compile Builder, and at Chris_Pabs, as well as our other hosts, Brian at Bro Builder, and Z at Gumpla_Ronin. And I'm sure they'll also let you know. Um, before I go, again, thank you for joining us tonight. I don't know if you guys know, but the boys, Kyle, Julio, Brian, Z, and I also started a podcast. It is called the Built Sideways Podcast. There is episode 1 is currently up on a lot of your favorite podcast distribution channels, so Spotify, Google Podcast, Radiocaster. It is taking a while to get it to other places like Apple Podcasts for some reason, because Apple takes forever to approve anything. But the links and all that stuff are in my link tree and my profile, as well as Critical Builds and the Built Sideways podcast social media, which we do have now. So that's there. If you guys have any questions for any future episodes for that, just send it our way at buildsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. Maybe there's a topic that you want us to talk about or cover. We are more than happy to do so. With that being said, guys, we'll see you guys on the next one. We'll see you hopefully this Tuesday for a Kodakai workbench.
Quarterman workbench.
One man workbench. We'll see you guys for that one. We'll let you guys know when the next critical builds is, and hopefully you guys enjoy the podcast. If you do, give it a chance and give it a listen. We'll see you on the whichever one you guys decide to watch on. We'll see you soon. Take it easy. Have fun. Be safe. Peace.
Bye.
Take good photos.
Yeah.
Take good photos.
Take photos.
Yeah.